All right. Okay. So we are just going to jump right in. I'll just give people a few seconds to arrive. And while I do that, I will introduce Vendoo. And just welcome to another episode of Vendoo's Reseller podcast. We're here today with Sean and Bethany from TrashPandasThrift. And we're going to be talking about setting smart goals and your reselling business for 2025. Vendoo is your one-stop shop for all things e-commerce, deep diving into strategies, tools, and success stories that help you take your reselling business to the next level. If you're a reseller and you're looking to scale your business, make sure to like this video, subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. We do this occasionally, and you will see lots of good content on our channel. So now let's go ahead and just get started. Besides running a successful online reselling business, this power couple has also helped to create and manage an online university to help other resellers, which is how I met them and how I decided that we really need some of this information, to get out to the masses. They share a ton of information about business planning and goal setting, which is what we are here to talk about today. But first, I want to let them introduce themselves. Could you guys tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been selling?
Yeah, so I'm Bethany, and this is Sean.
I'm Sean.
And we have been running TrashPandasThrift together now for 3 to 3.5 years. He joined the business when I had been running the business for about 2 years by myself. So I have been reselling for, now that it's 2025, I think over 5 years now, which is wild. I started part-time when I was still in school, and it grew rapidly into something I honestly never even dreamed of. And once I graduated, I went full-time, and Sean went full-time too. And it has just blossomed into a business now that is so much different than what it was when I first started 5 years ago.
Yep, I joined Bethany in 2021 or 2022. I think it was like, I think it was September, October of 2021. We've been doing it together for about 3.5 years. Going on almost 4 years in the next few months.
Yeah.
And we sell mostly, I forgot your second part of your question. We sell mostly women's clothes, but we also sell men's clothes. We sell kids' clothes. We sell anything that we can within the clothing category that will make us money.
Our business is a little bit different than a lot of other reselling businesses. We sell on many different platforms and a lot of different methods. We sell women's, men's, kids, everything that Sean said. We sell wholesale to other resellers. We sell in bulk to brick and mortar, consignment, buy-sell trade stores and thrift stores. And we also sell ourselves on traditional reselling platforms.
Awesome. Yes, I love that you're also you have embraced the live sales, the inevitable. I know some people go into the live sales kicking and screaming. They did not want that to become popular, but nevertheless, it became very popular. So I've been to some of their live shows. They're great. So definitely check those out. So we're here today to talk about a little unspoken problem in the reseller community, which is that there are far too many resellers out there who are just winging it. They have some inventory and a dream that they just want to make money. If you ask them what their goals are, they think they have them, but their goals are things like list more or make more money. So instead, we want to convince people of the importance of making defined goals for their business. So first, let's talk about why is it so important for them to be setting clear goals in the first place?
So you brought up a really great point, and I think it expands far beyond just resellers. It expands to everybody in every facet of life. It just is highlighted when it's something that we're really focusing on. And for what we're talking about today, it is on reselling. So in REU, you mentioned the reseller mentorship program that we run with Kaylee, Leigh, and Nikki. We also every single week have these accountability calls. And I mean, Deanna, you've been on quite a few of those. And the funny thing is someone will hop on and they'll say, well, I want to make X amount of dollars in sales. Let's just say this year my goal is $50,000 in sales. And you say, okay, that's wonderful. I would love for you to achieve that. Now, what are we going to do to get there? And then nothing. We got nothing. So the importance of goal setting is that you have to know not just where you're going, but how you're actually going to get there. So if you know that you want to end up in New York City, but you're in California, that's great. That's fantastic. You have an end goal, and that's one part of the process. But from what happens next is, how do I actually get there? Do I get there by boat, by plane, by a hot air balloon, by driving, by a motorcycle, by a car, by a van? Do I get there by hitchhiking? Or by train, by bus? How am I getting there? The vehicle that I'm going to use to get there, and what steps are necessary to make that happen? You can know where you want to go, but if you don't have a solid game plan for actually getting there, none of that matters, right? I want to be a millionaire, right? That's great. And I mean that when I say that. I'm not saying it to be facetious. I would like to be a millionaire. How am I going to do that if I just say that out loud, but there's no actual process to getting there? Or I want to lose weight. It's the new year. Everybody's signing back up for the gym. Well, that's great. How specifically are you going to get there? Are you going to, do more calisthenics? Are you going to do weightlifting? Are you going to do cardio? Are you going to walk more? Are you going to go join a tennis club? What are you going to do to achieve that?
Exactly. So, and in setting your goals, so the first, step number one is to have a goal in mind. And there is a specific term out there. It's not reseller related. It's not, it's more, life management, life coaching type, related. And that is the idea of a SMART goal. It's a SMART, SMART goal. So could you tell us a little bit about what SMART goals mean and how to use them?
Yes. So a SMART goal is I'll just break down the acronym of what SMART goal actually means. It is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And why all those things are important. So I don't want to go too deep into the weeds, but it has to be specific, because if you're vague, like you said, Deanna, if you want to just increase listings, that's not going to help you get anywhere. Does that mean by 1 or does that mean by 50? Right? Next, you get to measurable. How can you actually track your progress? We were talking about weight loss. If you say you want to lose weight, okay, well, how much? Do you want to lose 5 pounds or do you want to lose 50 pounds? How can we track along the way to achieving that goal? Or if you want to list more, we now know you want to list, X amount of items per day. How can we measure that on a daily basis? Is it attainable? Is it something that you actually can do? Is it something that is within the realm of existence? If you are in a place that has mostly men's clothes, or you're sourcing at stores maybe that have mostly men's clothes, is it really attainable to go all in on the women's category? Realistic is the next part of that, which is this realistic for you in your specific life circumstance? Do you have the time? Do you have the energy? Do you have the finances to dedicate to this portion of your life? Or what is going to make this realistic? Could be another way to reframe that and look at it. How can I turn this from potentiality into possibility? And then time bound, it is extremely important that we don't just throw something out into the universe and say we're going to get it done. We have a specific date for getting it done. If you were like me at any point in your life, especially through every level of education I've ever been in, I waited till the absolute last minute to get things done, but still got done because there was a time-bound frame reference for me to actually make sure I got that thing done.
Awesome. Have you guys set your own 2025 goals yet? And if so, could you share any of them with us?
Yes. So we have been making our 2025 goals. We haven't sat down and actually created SMART goals yet. We've been in Ohio up until recently. We just got back. So we're still at the drawing board for our personal business. But our goal this year is to make the same amount of money or more in less time. So for us, that means raising our ASP across platforms. It also means for us in our business wholesaling to more brick and mortar stores, really zoning in on what creates us the most amount of profit time in on each task by hour. So for us, that means really zoning in on what are we actually making the most amount of money on in less time. We want to do more of that as we go into this year and kind of give us more time to focus on other things in other parts of our business.
Awesome. And what are you using to track your goals?
One of the best things that we personally use in our business to track our goals is Vendoo, actually, unsurprisingly. And that's because, quite honestly, I have never been a numbers person, and you are looking at the numbers person. So when Sean came into the business and saw I had no way of tracking any of our analytics, I didn't even have an inventory system. He came in and kind of turned our business on its head. And that's what I mean partially when I say our business is nothing like what it was when I first started it so many years ago. I've leaned on Vendoo for years in terms of tracking analytics when it comes to where we're selling things, what platforms, and that gets really tricky as resellers, especially year after year. Vendoo is one place for that. I personally am also really trying to get into the habit of writing things down more. I am more so of a mental person, seeing things like Vendoo, tracking analytics visually, but I think for me this year, I'm going to go with writing things down more.
Awesome. And yeah, right now, Vendoo is having like a listing challenge. We do it once a quarter. And sometimes people will even ask us, like, how do we track how many, what's the best way to track how many listings you've made for the month? And I'm like, you use Vendoo. You're already on it. Go to your analytics, select month to date, and it will tell you exactly how many items that you listed. And how many you sold, and it will show you in comparison to how well you're doing as far as the same time period last year. So like if like what is to, if today's the 6th or the 7th, it'll say you've listed 30 items, but last month by this time you had only listed 10. So you can see like if you're doing better or worse. So I like that.
It also shows your numbers, your sales, and
Yeah.
it shows your profit depending on the platform and stuff like that as well, which I think is super duper
Most
helpful.
important in our business, and we like to say keeping track of your profit is something that's really important in general too with your goals.
Definitely. And then outside of Vendoo, I liked something that you said, and another thing that people don't pay enough attention to is their time, and how much time is it taking them to do things. So possibly timing yourself doing different tasks can probably also be very eye-opening to see like how long am I taking, how much hours does it take me to list, how many hours am I spending sourcing, how many hours does it take me to ship, et cetera, can really be eye-opening to how much profit you're making and like how much are you actually making per hour. What tasks are better spent, maybe delegated to someone else so you can spend time on the ones that make you more money and things like that. So I really, I think that's a good tip for everyone too that you brought up.
Sure.
How often do you reevaluate or update your goals? Like what happens if you're not meeting a goal? Will you personally, and it can be different for different people, but for you personally, do you reevaluate those goals every so often? Do you change them, or do you like buckle down and be like, no, we were meeting this goal and here's how we're going to do it?
Yeah, I'd say it depends. It depends what we're working on in our business. And I think because we have so many different arms of our business, that could look really differently depending on what the goal is. For example, like with Whatnot, that is something that we see as definitely like a quarterly adjustment period. We think that honestly, with anything in your business, it's really hard to see results overnight, right? Like you're not going to just make your goal. You're going to do all the steps needed. You're like, okay, wait, I'm doing the thing. I've been doing the thing now for a week. I've been doing the thing for a month. Where are the results? The results might just not be there yet. And that's something that I think is the number one reason why people oftentimes kind of have the right effort and then just kind of fall to the wayside because they just don't feel like it's doing enough for them to keep going with it when the results honestly just haven't been given enough time to even show up yet. You're raising your listing goal, for example, and you're just not selling as many or more items than you thought you would have when you listed more. That's something that I hear all of the time. And a lot of that just takes patience. Also understanding that you can look at your business, for example, for us, it works quarterly. We like to look at our business every 90 days mostly. That's honestly, I'm trying to think of somewhere that doesn't really apply to. The only thing maybe would be when we're wholesaling to stores. That's more so a year by year basis. When it comes to listing on traditional platforms, a platform live selling like Whatnot or Poshmark Live, quarterly goal setting, quarterly readjustments, and quarterly evaluating is what we're at. If I see that I'm doing something and it might not be having the results I wanted, we still buckle down and we still make sure that we give it a fair go. We give it at least that kind of 3-month period to really see what the results are going to be. And from there, we either make adjustments or we see, is this goal still something that we really truly believe? Is it attainable for us still? Is this something we still want to go after? How can we adjust based on the results we did see or didn't see and go from there? It is a constant evolution. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. Our business definitely shows that. And I think that depending on your risk tolerance, you can kind of change that amount of time. Just don't make it too short because that's often what we see.
No. I do think too, it's on a personal level, reselling is a business, but you are not the business. And sometimes it's hard to separate the two. Yep. But it's very important that you reevaluate. You reevaluate on a logical level and on an objective business level. I completely agree that that's what we do in our business. And 90 days is probably the least I would give something before I reevaluated and saw it was different. And while keeping that in mind, I'm also looking on a daily basis of, am I happy? Mm-hmm. Am I enjoying the process? Mm-hmm. Is this something that I can continue to sustain as a long-term measure, not just in this 9-day sprint, but it's something that I can sustain long-term? And I'm constantly checking in with myself and my emotions to make sure this is something that I actually want to pursue as the person running the business, not just the business being run by the person, if that makes sense. Or there was a different way of saying that, but it's an important thing that I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs find tricky, because on a logical level, we have this 9-day evaluation basis that we stick to. And on a daily basis, we're also thinking about ways to optimize for happiness and how that can apply to our lives, irregardless of the business goal itself.
Definitely. And I'm even going to highlight again, because I think it's so important, something that you guys just said, and that is that people don't give things enough time. So a lot of times I'll see people try something like live sale. And if their first or second live sale doesn't go well, they quit. And guess what? The first or second live sale for everybody is usually not that good. So, I mean, you have to do it something consistently. Other things, like I'll see people say, oh, well, I tried promoting my listings on eBay, but I didn't make any more additional sales, so I quit. And I'll say, well, how long did you do it for? And it's usually like a week or two. No, you have to give it 30, 60, and even 90 days to actually see results. The day that you start is not the day you're going to see results usually.
I think it really boils down to want and desire, because the expression that you might have heard me say this before in an REU call, but I've said this a couple times, which is, if you had a kid that was born and didn't learn how to walk right away on the first or second day, you're not going to be 2 weeks in and be like, I guess you're just not a walker. Right? Like, you're not going to look at the kid and be like, well, I guess they just don't walk. You're gonna spend every waking moment of your life thinking of ways to like get my kid to walk, right? As long as obviously there's nothing actually medically going on, you're going to be like, well, my kid's going to walk. They're going to learn how to do this. They're going to fall. They're going to bust their butt. There's going to be issues, but they're going to walk. And then people don't do anything with their business. They just say, I'm going to be a live seller, and they do 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 live shows and they quit. Or they list 5 or 10 items, they get 2 returns of their 10 items. So for them, it's a 20% rate, when if they had 100 and only 2, it'd be a 2% rate. And people say, I don't like eBay because I get too many returns. You have like the smallest amount of data points in the world. You can't possibly think that's how it's going to be in the long term. So giving yourself the time to actually have a solid pool of data is going to be a really important thing when you're starting anything new.
Yeah. Definitely. And then a second thing that I would highlight is the reevaluation. Sometimes people feel very stuck with their goals. And one of the reasons, I'll even use like New Year's Eve resolutions as an example. One of the reasons so many of those fail is, well, one, sometimes people don't have, like you said, they don't make a SMART goal. It's not an actual plan. It's just a desire, but not a plan on how to get there. But they get stuck on the thing where if they think in any way that they might fail, they quit. So, like, it's definitely, in reselling, as with any small business, it's definitely more of a marathon. And your goals are not set in stone. You had a goal, and maybe you didn't have enough information to make your SMART goal accurately. You thought you did, but maybe like after looking at it for a while, especially for people that are newer, you've only been selling for a year, you do not have enough data, like Sean just said, to really make educated guesses on how much money you can make next year if you've only been doing this for 1 year, right? So you might have to reevaluate, or something catastrophic might happen in your life or in the economy or something, or maybe a whole new marketplace pops up, live selling suddenly appears, like something huge happens, and that might change your goals. You're not stuck. You just need to reevaluate. I think quarterly is a great way to do it, by the way. I think that's pretty genius.
Yeah. Goals are not static at all. I think when we realized that and sat down, and I think for us, the biggest thing that kind of changed our business was being consistent, but at the same time being willing to evolve, grow, or change at any moment, just like that. Like, if something is not working at the end of that time that we're reevaluating, that's it. Like, we're willing to make massive action, massive change if we know that's what it takes. And that's something you develop over time, but is also something that is so incredibly powerful for a business.
Absolutely. And what keeps you motivated to stay on track? Because I know consistency is one of the most important things. So,
Mhm.
and when you're running your own business, it's also and from your home,
Yeah.
how easy is it? Like whether you're reselling from home or working a job from home, it's very easy to get distracted. It's like very easy to take the day off, to notice that like the dishes need to be done. So I'm going to stop doing this task. Um, so how do you stay on track with your goals on the day to day?
It really comes down again to the want versus need.
Mm.
Right? People really have to take seriously, again, whether it's losing weight or starting to resell or starting a different business, or it's just working on your relationship, or it's working on something that's important to your life, your education. If you don't have a need or a must to accomplish something, it's going to be really, really hard the more flexibility you're given. And as an entrepreneur, we have the ultimate flexibility. We can choose to work when we want. We can choose to make as little or as much as we want. There is no cap to how much you can or cannot earn in your business. And at the end of the day, the best part of being an entrepreneur is that all the weight falls on you. And the worst part of being an entrepreneur is that all the weight falls on you. And if you don't have a strong desire and a strong must to accomplish something, you're not going to wake up at 5 a.m. when the bin's open. You're not going to figure out what to do next when you have a store closed down that was your honey hole and it just got posted on TikTok and now everybody goes there and there's not a lot of stuff anymore. You're not going to work through it when you have a bad sales week. You're just going to give up. And I'd say that the same rule that applies for everything else that's important in your life applies to reselling. It's just magnified.
Mm-hmm. For
Yeah.
sure. I think like personal tools are going to depend by the person to person. I think you have to sit down and be honest with yourself. Given that freedom, are you someone that's going to run with it and do everything in your power to grow this? You feel just motivated by the success. And in the same token, on the other side of the coin, are you someone that honestly you just struggle without structure? You struggle without knowing what to do at every single point, and you struggle getting through tasks if you're just distracted by everything around you. I'm someone that I have discipline. That's something that I've had throughout my life. But I know that I have to look at it in a certain way for my brain to be happy. And for me, that's always mean making a game of whatever I'm doing, right? Like reselling to me has always been like a game, right? Just sourcing, selling, seeing something sell, even bulk selling to clients like we do now. It's all gamified for me. For someone like Sean, that's honestly probably not the case. Like we have a whole different set of tools as to what makes us both stay motivated. For him, it's a lot of more, I would say, like really purposeful, really specific things that he does to make sure that he stays on task. Whereas for me, it's more so just visualizing my end goal. And that's just going to depend person to person.
The only thing I would add to that is accountability is going to be really, really huge. Because if you don't, like, we have built-in accountability.
It's right there.
We're obviously married and we have this built-in accountability. And I think that a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, before I was reselling, I've been an entrepreneur for basically my entire working life in some capacity or another. And it's really, really hard if you don't have accountability. And that could mean a bunch of different things for different people. Accountability could be something as simple as posting on Facebook or on Instagram, this week, I'm going to make X amount of dollars and sharing it with everybody in your life. Or it could be sharing with your mom or your sister or your brother and telling them like, hey, can you give me a call on Friday to let me know about this thing, or to hold me accountable to this thing? Here's what I'm going to plan on doing. We have built-in accountability in Resellers Edge University. It's one of the things that actually is one of the most impactful parts of the program, is having 450 plus other people from across the country watch you when you post and say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. And there's people who are like watching you and seeing you on the calls. And if you don't actually show up and do the thing, there's some pressure there, and it's good pressure. Yeah. It's not bad pressure. It's good to have pressure. It's good to have someone who looks at you and asks you the hard questions, and to make sure that you're actually staying on track.
Yeah. I think that's personally one of the biggest things that has come out of Resellers Edge that I personally didn't foresee, is the impact of having a community that not only, yes, like we celebrate each other's wins, but in the same token, you're not being coddled. Like we know your potential is here. And Sean and Nikki, they do accountability Wednesday calls, and they just hold you accountable to your goals with your peers in a way that I think, with reselling being such a lonely business sometimes, has really transformed a lot of members' businesses.
Yeah, and I'm going to 100% agree, because I'm a member of Resellers Edge University. This is obviously, we're not doing this to promote any one specific program, but this is the one that Sean and Bethany happen to be a part of and to run. But it really illustrates how important accountability is. And there's accountability on different levels. Like they said, there's a live call with tons of people on it. That's very motivating. We also have like a buddy system where you just kind of one-on-one or one-on-two, two or three of you get together and you text each other, whatever. And I would really encourage people, even if you don't have the means right now to like join a paid accountability group or mastermind group, that's okay. If you're not quite there yet, still find an accountability buddy. They're out there. Use social media. Say, hey, I'm looking for accountability buddies. You're going to be inundated with accountability buddy requests immediately. Other people want that too. Start a group chat with them on Instagram or start a group text with them on your phone and check in with each other like once a week, or every day, and be like, hey, I'm going to do 10 items today. And then you're going to text your buddy later and be like, did you list your 10 items? It really helps because most of us are doing this solo and we don't have anyone to talk to all day long about our business. So being in groups, you can also join the Vendoo Facebook group, and we have a listing challenge once a quarter. The listing challenge are really motivating. This one has over 1,000 people. We more than doubled our size with this listing challenge. We have over 1,000 people in the challenge, and the chat is just flying off the hook. Everyone's giving each other support, advice. And if someone is on there and says, hey, I'm not going to be able to meet my goal this month because my mother is sick or my child is sick or something, there's other people in the group that right away are like, don't worry, family comes first, but then all you need to do is like readjust your goal and then keep on working towards it. So like accountability, I can't stress enough. No matter how you do it, it looks like you said, you can do it in many different ways. Accountability is super, super strong.
You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself most. And it's really, really hard when you are an entrepreneur and you just have yourself as an echo chamber. And maybe you have people in your life who have traditional jobs. Maybe you yourself have a traditional job and you're working as a reseller part-time. You have an echo chamber of people who there's nothing wrong with their life experience or their reference experiences, but they do not have the reference experience of somebody who is doing the same thing as you. I cannot talk to somebody who doesn't like horror movies about the horror movie genre. I cannot talk to somebody about reselling who doesn't resell. They're not really going to be interested, and also they're not really going to understand the complexities of what goes into a listing, of what goes into a title, of what goes into reworking your listings, of what goes into sourcing, right? So I think what Deanna said is really important. Irregardless of how you choose to do it, find people in your community. See that one random person at your local thrift store who you always see and you never said hi to before, and be like, hey, my name is Sean. It's nice to meet you. I always see you here, and this is kind of weird and awkward, but I just wanted to break the ice and say I'm a reseller too, and maybe we can connect. Having community is so, it is so so profoundly impactful on not just your business, but on yourself. And they work hand in hand. And finding ways to be accountable. If you've ever been someone who's known about a swear jar where you put $1 every single time in, that's a version of accountability. You can have a listing jar. There are so many ideas that you can throw out there about accountability, but making sure that you stay accountable is the only way to motivate yourself.
I remember my to have a listing jar.
$1
Yeah, it works. It works depending on what works for you. It could look so differently.
Right. For sure. So and Bethany, you even mentioned, so you started your reselling business without the SMART goals and without the tracking. In what ways have you seen your business grow now as a result of tracking your business goals?
Oh man, it's a tough question because honestly, I can't even look at it as if it's the same business because it's not. I truly believe like TrashPandasThrift was born together because they're just such a really good combination of what we both bring to the table. And at the same time, I'm really grateful that I made those mistakes in the beginning. I'm grateful, honestly, that I started this business. Honestly, like Sean was saying, in an echo chamber. Like I didn't know anyone who resold. It was a couple years ago and it was still popular, but it wasn't as popular as it is right now. And I just kind of felt as if everyone around me was doing something else. And I didn't feel as if what I was doing was a real business. So I didn't treat it that way. And it showed, I wasn't consistent. I wasn't consistent with everything that I wanted to accomplish for my business. I never sat down. I never tracked my goals. I never tracked my numbers. I think a year went by before I actually sat down and looked at my net profit for the year. And that was the moment of realization of, wait, I'm putting in X amount of hours. Why am I not getting an amount back that feels really good and really like satisfied to me? That was the breaking point for me, where I felt like, okay, this was even before you actually joined the business, where I need goals. I need a set number of how many listings am I putting up per week? How much am I willing in my sourcing budget to spend in order to make enough profit that I feel happy with? And year after year, we've compounded on that. And now we have a business that is something we're both really proud of. And also at the same time, I'm sure is going to look really different this year than last year. And that's the goal for us. And I'm sure that's going to happen next year as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much for coming on our podcast, for giving us your, I would call it expert of philosophies about SMART goals, because like I said, it's a little bit lacking in our reseller community. So we need some people out there who are advocating for business planning, SMART goals, accountability, and things like that. So thank you guys both for coming. Again, they are TrashPandasThrift on Instagram. You can go on there and find them, and then you'll find all the links to all the other things that they do, all the other helpful things they do. If you want to get into live selling, I honestly suggest going and watching a few of their whatnot sales, because it gave me a lot of inspiration to try live selling as well. And stay tuned for future podcasts. Again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for upcoming events, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.